Welcome to this episode of the Church Answers podcast. This particular episode, I think they're all fun. Now, the listener or viewer may have a different idea when they listen or watch me or do both, because fun is in the eyes of the beholder. And obviously, I enjoy my own podcasts, and most of them are just a lot of fun for me. This one's going to be a lot of fun too. I'm going to tell you about basically an experiment that we've been doing in outreach and tell you what we are finding in that experiment. But before we go any further, we always want to thank our podcast sponsor, Belay. Belay is our incredible sponsor that has provided this ministry of the Church Answers podcast free of charge to you. They provided you a download called The Power of Productivity. You can just text THOM, THOM, at 55123 to get it. But above all, try Belay. Someone said we can't afford to hire somebody in the quality of Belay. Well, here's what we found. They segment their workers into so many hours. You hire them in hours that you want them to serve. And we typically get someone that is twice the productivity of a lot of other, not our employees, but other employees. And so when we get someone from Belay, regardless of the price, we think we're getting a bargain. That's the bottom line. So just go to Belay, and you can go to belaysolutions.com. You can look at it in the show notes. We're very grateful for them and their ministry. Okay, a few months ago, not too many, 2 or 3 months ago from this recording, Church Answers entered into a partnership with Outreach. It was a broad partnership because Outreach has so many resources for the local church. We have so many as well, but they typically don't overlap. Typically, we're more complementary than we are competitors. And one thing that I kept thinking that Church Answers needed to do was to have a new resident mailer, which essentially means when somebody moves into town and they set up their utilities, or they set up, or they close on a loan and buy their house, that they get a postcard, a real nice postcard welcoming them to the neighborhood from the church. I knew Outreach had it. I knew some other places had it, but I thought, maybe that's something we needed to do proprietary. I started digging into it, and I found that Outreach was so good at it that I just didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So I called them up, asked them if we could enter into a partnership, and now we have that partnership. It has been fantastic, and more than selling you a product, and I urge you to get it so you can see it in the show notes. And by the way, you can put it any budget size you want to. If you say, I don't want that many postcards going out, you can dial it down to a very affordable budget for your church. Yeah, I do want you to get it because I think you're going to be absolutely amazed. But I want to take time today to talk about what we have found thus far with the churches that are going through it. We found out even before the partnership. That's one of the reasons we did this partnership. We began to find out, okay, tell us what's happening with your churches that are using this new resident ministry. I'm going to give you 5 things. A 10-minute podcast can only give so much information. And I'm going to give you the top 5 things that we have found, at least the top 5 from our perspective. So hear me on this. The first thing I want you to hear is it works. Now, what does works mean? It means that a number of people who get these postcards are going to end up showing up at your church. That's the intention of it. The intention is to get them as a new resident to at least give your church a visit, at least give your church a try. That's the intention of it. And I have yet to talk with a church over time that has not seen some type of flow. Now, sometimes you get guests and you don't know that they came from the Outreach new mailer. It doesn't come up in conversation. You don't have a place where they check off how they found out about the church. But many churches already said, we know of several who've come to our church as a result of the mailer. And quite frankly, the fact of the matter is, if only one family comes in a year, it's more than taking care of the cost of the mailer. So just to let you know that it works. It really does work. But I want to give you some other caveats. I don't want to just give you this great promise without letting you understand some of the other things we found about the Outreach mailer. Secondly, it takes time. There's no magical time, but usually what we are finding is that church leaders don't start seeing truly a flow of these guests coming from the new mailer until they've been mailing it for about 6 months. Now, the implications of that is that these most of these guests or new residents are are putting the postcard away, and they're going to get to the church at some point. Or they've got a list of churches that they plan to visit, and they put you as one of the churches, and it takes a while for them to get there. But we have found somewhere around 6 months is when you really begin to notice guests start coming in. And what that means is it is not unlikely that the first 5 months you're not going to see much activity. It's a building process. It truly is. And whether it's the 6th month, the 5th month, the 8th or 9th month, when you start seeing it build, every month thereafter, you start seeing a steady flow of guests coming from there. So the one thing we want to just tell you, what we have found in this experiment of talking to church leaders about it, is that it does take time. Just simple as that. So I was talking to a pastor in the Houston area recently, and he kind of confirmed what some others, and this is a third point, what others were saying is sometimes someone who is not a new resident gets a welcome to the neighborhood or welcome to this town, welcome to the community postcard. Now, why is that? Well, the way that this system works is when somebody hooks up utilities or someone closes on a house, the public records that are generated by that then cause the list to be generated by outreach and now in partnership with us. Well, sometimes it could be a refinance on a home loan, or sometimes it could be a utilities turned on again for whatever reason. It is not perfect. It won't, if 300 cards are sent out 1 month, 300 postcards, there may be 3 or 4. There may be 4 or 5 where they're not new residents. But don't worry about that. This particular pastor said, hey, the reason I found out is this person showed up to church and told me, hey, I got your postcard. I'm not a new resident, but I came anyway. So it doesn't hurt anything. I just want you to know it is not perfect. It has nothing to do with what outreach does. It has to do with the system that causes these to kick in. So some on the list will not be new residents. Don't let that bother you at all. Fourth, the churches that are doing follow-up are the churches that are seeing the greatest fruit. What I love about this particular mailer is you get a list of everybody that is getting a new card. Now, be careful, and you'll see this in the instruction. There's certain legalities about following up and how you can follow up. You can't just start putting them on this email list and beating them up. You just can't do that. I'm not going to go into all of the parameters, but you can follow up. I mean, for example, you can take that list and go put a door hanger that says, hey, just want to let you know we're here and praying for you. There's certain things you can do, but make certain you don't violate what you're not supposed to do. But my point is, if you follow up, you are going to see a lot of fruit. Now, the final thing I want to say to this, we have talked to a few 2-year churches way before our partnership began. 2-year churches that have been doing the outreach new resident mailer in partnership with Church Answers now for around 2 years, sometimes more. What we're hearing from them is that they could not do without this ministry. It's not replacing person-to-person evangelism. It's not replacing personal relationships. It is an introduction. It is basically the church saying, we're here. And most residents don't even know the church is there, even if they pass it every day. So after 2 years, we really are hearing more and more about the fruit of this particular ministry. Quite frankly, where I am today, when I work with churches in consultation, the pastors and leaders coaching, I understand it's our resource now, so we're selling it along with outreach. But I just want to tell you very clearly, I believe that this is a vital part of the entire outreach health of the church, the Great Commission health of the church. There may be something else that's better out there. I haven't found it as far as this level of introduction to the community. So I am sold on it, to use the marketing terminology, but I am convinced that God is using this to stir some hearts of people who are new to the neighborhood, and they see your church as a place where they want to visit. I could say a lot more. Time's running out. It always runs out. Thank you, Belay. Thank you for giving us that download. And once again, the power of productivity at THOM at 55123. So get that download, and thank you, Belay. And come back. We got a lot of other things we want to talk about very briefly. 10-minute bite-sized nuggets on the Church Answers podcast.